Well, hello, everybody. You guys are all on mute, right?
I'm here.
Hello.
I think you start up on mute. So.
And you're also trying to eat a little bit.
Yes. Yeah, it is noon for some people, isn't it?
4 o'clock in the morning for some of us.
4 o'clock in the morning. Oh, that's way early. And I thought I was early. So.
Where is 4 o'clock in the morning?
About 10 a.m. for me right now.
Melbourne, Australia.
Oh, Melbourne. Oh, yeah, I can hear it in your voice now. Sorry.
What, the tiredness?
Yeah, I'm complaining that I didn't have enough coffee. I can only imagine.
Yeah, this starts at midnight for me.
You're a brave man, Peter. A brave man.
Yeah.
We are Saturday all over. I'm right now in Warsaw, Poland, 7 p.m.
You're at 7 p.m. now, huh?
Yep.
We got a whole range of times here.
7 p.m. is a lot more civilized than 4 a.m.
Definitely.
Yeah, I know. I've worked with some of the guys from India, and like, it's way early in the morning when we're working on stuff, or they've stayed all night just to work on projects. That time difference can be a bear to deal with. So John Rhodes is actually the primary speaker in this one, but there's also going to be John, Kiyoshi, and myself. And we're just waiting. I think John is going to lead it off when he gets in here. But I figured we might as well start collecting and we can chat a little bit while we're waiting for him.
Just back on your previous presentation with
Yes.
So using the PCML approach with the application server, you don't have to go that way, do you? You can write your own, not use the application server and just go directly?
You could well, the way that we have created the deployment process, it actually uses the PCML. So you could write your own PCML if you wanted to, but yeah, one way or another, you're going to have a PCML file. It just identifies both the TUI and Matchpoint use the PCML file. And with IBM, they also do look at a PCML file, so you would have to point to one. So either way, you're going to have one.
You can completely skip the PCML implementation and just write your own beyond.
Yes, yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, because we found it didn't support enough parameters, etc. So there are some limitations to it.
Yes, IBM does have those limitations, so that's where the structures come in.
Yeah, but we didn't get to dictate the structure of the message, so yeah, we had to go outside that.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I was just wondering if there was any support outside of the PCM model, but there's not, by the sound of it.
Yeah, not really. The ways that we deploy it, they all do require the PCML.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Mark, I'm planning to do the upgrades tomorrow from 8.7 to 7.1 or 7.2, whatever it is, the latest version. Is there any trap on the way, or it's just a straightforward?
It was a very straightforward move. Yeah, I didn't have any problems when I moved our models from 8.7 to 8.7.1. It's actually very simple. It's just a simple PTF. I'm trying to think if there's any. Yeah, I don't think there was anything unusual about it. It's been a few months since I did it, so.
What I read, then you have to add this new library to your model list, yes?
Yes, there's going to be 2 libraries that you'll have to add to your model list. One for the model and one for the gen, basic, or one for the Y1 libraries and one for the Y2 libraries. So you'll want to put those first in your library list above any Y1 or any Y2 libraries. So that is one thing you do have to do. But that's pretty normal to have something like that when you do an upgrade like that, like this.
And then you have to also upgrade the runtime. Yes, do you know exactly what's happening when you do this duplicate objects? Which are the new objects being duplicated, or?
Actually, I did not have to upgrade my runtime when I did this. But then I don't run in them. Yeah, so I'm using actually my, like that run2e runtime library that I have, that is still 8.7. It's not 8.7.1, and I haven't had any problems with running anything.
Just curious, can you do a parallel install? Like have 2 versions running simultaneously?
Actually, you can, because when you do the upgrade, you're going to actually have to run an upgrade by model. So I have one of my 8.7 sets of libraries where I have a couple of them that are upgraded to 8.7.1, but then the rest of my 8.7 in that area are still at 8.7. So I have both sets of models running within the same list. Yeah.
Wow, that would be great. Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, well, good afternoon. John
Hey,
Roach
John.
here. Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, cool. Good deal. All right, so I wanted to talk about impact analysis this afternoon. Let's see if I can share is my screen showing? Not quite yet, probably. How's that coming through?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right, well, good deal. So Mark Schroeder and I, and just want to talk through some background on our product, CM Evolve IT, and also just impact analysis in general. Kind of have a maybe open discussion on that. And then I want to show you some of the products. First, Mark's we're just going to review what we have in 2E that's built in, and then I'll show the product and how it works. And then Kiyoshi is going to join about 1 o'clock and kind of do more of an extended some use cases. I think will be interesting on actually making some changes. And then do some hands-on. So I hope everyone got a user ID and password and link from, so I can bring up the example here. Did people see that or not?
I got it. I got mine.
All right, great.
I don't think I got one, but I'm looking.
I'm just going to pull it up. So now, you can kind of look and see what it looks like. What the heck is it? I think it would come from Kiyoshi Terasawa. He did the setup.
Right, there'll be an email with a subject line, CM Evolve IT account created.
Yeah, I finally found the email. It should look like this. Well, if you didn't get it, maybe put it in chat. Maybe Mark, could you like just forward those to Kiyoshi?
Yes,
Maybe
I
he'll do it
will.
when he's doing another session right now, but hoping to get them created if there's some kind of problem. But okay, so once we have that, that'll give you the ability to kind of play around and look at the product itself. And we're going to keep this active through Monday. There's some technical issues, which we think we have resolved, but we'll have to see. But if we don't have them resolved today during the day, it'll be ready to go. You know, Monday certainly we could look at it also Monday. I think it's working now. Okay, so anyway, we go through some background. So we developed or adapted this product, SIEM Evolve IT, to CA2E and CA Plex. The original genesis of the project was actually from COBOL, doing large-scale COBOL analysis, mainly on the mainframe, but also on IBM I. And we used the architecture and parsers and analyzers basically, and adapted those to CA2E and CA Plex. That's relatively new. CA Plex was first, and that came out early part of this year. And now, CA2E is out in kind of a beta form. But we're rapidly enhancing that, so we expect certainly by the end of the year that we'll have the same functionality available in 2E that we have currently in Plex. And it's around answering questions like this. How many functions and tables are in your model? Yeah, you can kind of see what's there, make counts of that, but which ones are used versus not used, things like that are maybe hard to answer without analysis tools. Okay, and then how are your functions connected to your data? This is a lot harder to figure out. What is the data lineage from a screen, maybe a 2E screen, all the way onto a database, and then from that database maybe to a different database table. Very, very difficult to analyze and figure that out. There's some built-in tools in 2E. Probably you have tools like Hawkeye or like XAnalysis, but a lot of times they're not able to show across an entire system how data lineage happens. How does the call graph look like? And Plex and 2E, you have a concept of external functions that compile in the programs. And things like Hawkeye will pick those up. But if you're also looking for the internal functions like the retrieve objects and create objects, that how is it possible to do that? I mean, 2E, I think it has something there. There's something there, right, Mark, on a graphical, or is that just ERDs? They're graphical, a report.
Yeah, there's not really a graphical.
Yeah, okay, there's not really anything. Yeah, so we've seen exactly the call graph in a graphical format. It's something you have to do by hand, typically. The statistics would be nice to have. So can you accurately estimate major projects? A lot of times the answer is no, and especially I think this. Again, we use this product in our projects. Usually we're called in to do development on models we may have not worked with before. We haven't worked with them for years in a lot of cases, like I know some of you probably have. So if you're into a model or to an area of the model that you haven't worked on before, can that be accurately estimated? It can be very difficult sometimes. And have you ever done analysis and missed a dependent object? I think all of us have probably done that. So trying to answer these questions and create functionality or a product to help answer these better. That was the aim of SIEM Evolve IT. And you have built-in tools. Mark will kind of go through those. How many of you guys use other products like Hawkeye or XAnalysis, in addition to a built-in TUI. And maybe maybe I'm not even mentioning the tool you use. I'm curious what people are using.
Okay.
Hawkeye, okay.
Nothing.
Nothing, okay.
We have both Hawkeye and there's a thing called, shoot, I think it's A+. I could be very wrong on that.
A+, okay.
Yeah, we use both. CBS.
Okay. Why are you up using both?
Well, Hawkeye, we had it way back, but
Okay.
we are leaning toward to using XAnalysis as our a standard.
Okay. Okay, fair enough. Any other products?
Yeah, I have the XAnalysis installed. I used it a couple of times and ended up going back to TUI directly because it seems like I could get the info I needed much faster than going through the XAnalysis. I don't know why I have it, but not much use it.
Okay. Yeah, fair. So yeah, I'm gonna show you another alternative today. Yeah, I think certainly the built-in TUI stuff, there's some stuff there that is important, certainly. So built-in tools. I mean, TUI, sometimes you can do some of these usages take a long time to run. Kind of hard to make sense of sometimes, at least for me. Maybe for Mark Schroeder, it's a lot easier. But not really able to export it, and information certainly is limited. And things like data lineage is really, really hard to get out of the built-in tools. There's no metrics really built into TUI at all. And the information, if you're an expert at TUI, you can make use of these tools, but it's really hard to explain exactly how things are put together from the output, the raw output. Usually you have to create like Visio diagrams or something if you're going to communicate that to anybody else. And the models are hard. I mean, the TUI model does not have inheritance, so that inheritance only applies to Plex, but it does have concept of templates. Those templates have kind of hidden things that the TUI generator does behind the scenes, and things about the model too, about relation verification, relation validation. All that is there, but doesn't show up easily necessarily on Impact, except by looking at the generated code. And how does the generated code relate to the model? Where did that relation come from exactly? That's kind of hard to see. So our aim with the product really was to make it better, to make something that would be more introspective of the model. It was just showing kind of the entry point into SIEM Evolve IT. You can get quickly just information on how things are how you get the stats on your model very quickly. And this is kind of useful. I mean, not super useful, but it's kind of nice to see sometimes that how many functions make up your model and what type of functions are they. Sometimes people in management are really astounded by the amount and complexity of these applications in TUI and also in Plex. And so what are we doing? Yeah, in a way, we're doing things that are similar to XAnalysis. We go a bit beyond Hawkeye. We're looking at the source. Okay, so we're looking at the CL, the RPG, the COBOL. We're scanning that because that's necessary in order to get how the program is actually generated. And that's combined with information out of the model itself, the TUI model, looking at the model directories, and we've developed an API into the TUI model that lets us get information out of that. We're building on that. And at some point, we want to make that even open source, where we can provide this. So if you wanted to look at your TUI model via our APIs, then great. Maybe we're thinking the reason we would do that is that we would want to get other folks to help us with the APIs so we can even get more information out of the model. And I guess that's something that's aspirational right now. We haven't gotten too far into it, but we do have APIs that look at a lot of the aspects of the model. like the relations, like the action diagram. And then lastly, the configuration. So things like menus are very important. Usually when you do an analysis, people are thinking about a menu item. Like you're analyzing how people enter an investment if you're like an investment house, or how if you're submitting a batch job to do a monthly statement, they think of the menu option around that. And so we can connect up the menu with the actual generated code of the application part of it, as well as things like the CL. So that your batch job scheduler is also another important entry point into the application, and you can pull that information into CMO IT. So these three things are what we're combining to show a more holistic view. And I'll show some of the features that make it up, like getting statistics from your TUI model and the applications around TUI model, being able to browse and look for things, do searches, find things maybe more quickly than you can directly in TUI. Developing call graphs, got a very extensive call graph capability that lets you see how programs are connected, how batch jobs and menus are connected to programs, and how programs are connected to database, and what the nature of their connection is. Was it read, write, or update? And also an estimation capability. So we can see how complex a particular function might be by the number of action diagram lines that are manually entered into there, and then be able to do estimation from that. Okay, some of the browser capabilities. I'll show this live in a little while. There's a call graph. So I'll show that as well. An estimation, so you can look at a call graph and look at how many, types, what are the types of statements that make up that call graph that may have been manually entered, and what's the nature of them. And therefore, if you're looking to make major changes or you're looking to rewrite something, you can kind of get an idea about how complicated it is. And what we're seeing here, that's pretty huge here. These estimation points are really your own variable about what you think, how you want to measure it. Like maybe if this were recreating it in a different language, you could say, well, it takes my Java developer, 1 hour to do a simple condition, or 1 minute to do a simple condition might be better. And therefore, just kind of add up what it would take for someone to rewrite something, if that were your aim, or to make a major change to something. You just, by looking at this total here, you say, well, this is a really, really complicated area of the system. Therefore, you should expect that it takes me more time to make a change here than it would in something that had like a 200 estimation point. So just a way to bring metrics into the whole process by looking at the actual statements that make up the action diagram. Okay. And we also have the ability to export everything you see, everything you find on within Evolve IT. You can export that as a CSV or as JSON. So, but obviously we're not the only tool out there. So you may want to be combining what you find in XAnalysis or Hawkeye with what you found in CM Evolve IT, and making, or other tools, and just, so we try to make everything open as possible, where you can access what's in CM Evolve IT by API, or just export it as JSON or CSV. Okay, so that was kind of an overview. So I think it's going to be more instructive to see things hands-on. But I thought we'd start with Mark Schroeder giving an overview of what's built into TUI, and maybe having a discussion about where those tools are lacking, or where you found them to be lacking in the real life analysis. And then we'll go into CM Evolve IT and look at that in more detail. Is that okay, Mark?
All right, let me see. All right.
Maybe I have to stop presenting first, or
I think I got it.
You got it.
Can you see my screen here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Changes. So we're going to pretty much be looking directly into our model. Do want to bring up a couple points before we start is, there, as most of you know, there's two primary types of changes that you're going to be looking at. It's going to be private, and then there's public. And the private ones, that's where you change the action diagram of an internal function, that type of thing. So then the external function that uses that internal function is going to have to be recompiled. Maybe parameters got larger, smaller, removed. So that's the type of thing you have in a private. A public is where you actually change the parameters of the internal function. So, I mean, they're fairly similar because they both are looking at internal functions, but the difference is with the private ones, the change is taking place inside of your internal function. And on the public change, it's basically on the interface between the internal and external function. And as you know, the internal functions, are compiled into your full function. So what we're going to do is do a very simple process here. I'm going to go ahead and look at this policy file and say that we've decided that this length of the policy is not what we need. We need to make it larger. So there has to be some impact analysis. If we change this policy number, what does that mean to our system? Well, in our case, we have a really small system, so it's not as big a deal, but it still gives us an example of what's going to happen. So I'm going to do a usage on here on the policy number, and then it brings up some information. We have 25 objects that are affected in some way or other. Include inactive code. That means that if the code is commented out, it's still going to be included. So it's a good idea, I think, a lot of times if it's commented out to set that to no. In this case, it doesn't really change our total. But in some cases, you might, especially in older systems, you might have a lot of commented out code, and you don't want to have that affect your impact analysis. Okay, so then I just start looking down here and see, well, the objects, there's some different files that are affected. So obviously that's going to have an effect when files are affected, because now your access to those files is going to be different because, well, let's see what the parameters are. So we're looking at, oh, those are files. So let's go ahead and look down here. You have to go look around a little bit more and see what's happening. So, well, policy number, that obviously is part of your file. And you're going to find the same case in each one of these files. Is policy number is part of that file. So that's why you're getting it. And you can see the reason right over here, the file entity. So the reason it's right on your file. Level 1 means that you're actually looking at this object directly. It's one level down from the policy number. So that's the first clue that I'd be looking at is, what files are going to be affected by this change. Secondly, I want to look at, well, what functions, and I want to start with my internal functions because those are the ones that could affect more. So let's go see what we have here. Okay, this is an update index. So that is an internal function. So we're going to start with an internal. Let me do an shift F11 so we can go see. So we're going to start with simulating a private change. So I'm going to do a 94. And if we change something inside of this function, what is that going to do? Well, there's no effect in this case. So what if we change something in a public change? That means in this case, because we have a function and we have the policy number here. What kind of change is that going to affect? So I'm going to do a public change in this case. And well, this function is not used anywhere. So I've done some of my research now on this specific function, and I realize it doesn't really have any impact in my impact analysis. So I would typically go down every single function and see what is happening in each one. Just for time, I'm going to go ahead and look at other functions. So here's a generate policy number, which is an internal function. So how does this one get affected, or how does this affect change? So I'm going to do a internal change. I'm going to simulate an internal change, which means that something inside of my function is changing. Well, it's not really going to change a lot because this one isn't used either. So that's we're not having good luck on finding stuff that affects a lot of areas. Okay, let's try this one. Trying to get you some more data here. I was in this earlier and was able to get some good stuff. Okay. So I have to go through each one of these functions, and I have to determine what's going to happen. Now, in our case, we're not really getting a lot of excellent information going on because we're not finding a lot of changes. So, yeah. This is a problem with live demos, isn't it? You don't find the data you want. So let's see.
Can you go back into that generate policy number? I thought it actually was pulling something different.
Okay. So I'm going to do an F4.
Yeah, it's pulling
Oh,
the
okay.
external.
Yes. Okay. So it is. So there's this external function here. All right. So in this case, we're gonna go take a look. I'm gonna copy that, and then I'm gonna go into the action diagram. That's the only thing that's in here. So now we see that policy number is right there, and we see that, well, this code, if this code changes, then here's policy number again. So we see that there's a couple places we need to look at. So what I would typically do, this is a small function, so it's not a lot to look at. What I typically do is I would go here, I'd put my policy number. Let me go and grab that. Grab my policy number. Once I've identified a function that I think is going to be affected, oh, it's not. Okay. It's not doing a good paste for me. All right. Now I'm going to do an F7, and then I'm going to find out where. So these are all items that, as developers, you've done many times, but it shows you how you can use this in doing your impact analysis, not just in doing debugging or figuring issues in your programs, but you can use the same tools to help you do impact analysis. So we've found that this program has to be put on our list. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create myself a list. I'm just going to call it changes, and I'm going to do a replace. So I'm going to remember that. So now what this does is it creates a model list for me of items that need to be recompiled. I could do that at this level too, because we have a small number and you've seen that there hasn't been a lot of impact. But as we go down into programs, you're going to find, yep, this is RPG. You're going to find that you can put these onto a list. And so this is a retrieve object. So I'm going to do 95 on there. Yep, it doesn't really affect. And then as I go through this, I'm going to keep placing functions that I find, the external functions, onto this list. So then by the time I get done with this, I'll be able to go in and work with my lists. So I'm going to work with model lists. And there's my changes. And of course, we only have one item there right now. But if we had more items, then we would be finding all the items that are important for us to look at in our change. So our policy, we build up what we're going to work on. We build up what's important. We do our impact analysis by doing the 94, 95, and then we add items that we find that are important to our list. And then we start looking more in depth at each of the objects in that list. And you'll know that either you have to recompile them or you need to do some additional work with them. Let me see if I can find any more information on this. So I had done policy earlier and come up with some good lists. Okay. Okay, so here I'm doing a public change. So that means that I'm affecting parameters. And so both of these are gonna need to be looked at. So I would look at them. Let's see. There it comes. And then we're gonna look at here we have insurance and owned. So our policy, because we're doing a public change, right there is what we're affecting. So since we know that there's a public change here, well, where is this one used? Because this is a retrieval index. So we know that it's an internal function. So how many external functions does it affect? Well, in this case, it's probably just this one right here. So what I would do, I'd copy that, which my copy isn't working real well today. And then I would look in my action diagram, and if there's a lot of code, it would be harder to find, but here is where there's a policy number. So it's different, much different than using Evolve IT, because you're looking real specifically into changes that are taking place. It's harder to get a whole call graph, but what you're going to be doing here is you're going to be getting the objects that are affected, and you're going to know where coding has to be done. So 2E really is getting you the information as what you need to change yourself in your project. It doesn't give you like a big broad image of what's happening. It's going to be very specific to, like in this case, we were looking at policy number. So we're only looking at how that is affected. So another thing we can do, instead of just looking at policy number, we can look at, let's see, some internal functions. So I'm going to go ahead and get some retrieves. Okay, so if we change this retrieve object, how would it be affected? It's a retrieve, so it's an internal function. So it's either going to have an effect on parameters or it's going to have an effect on the code itself. So I would want to find out where this works. So I first have to do the U to get into the screen here. And now I'm going to do a 94 again. So I do my private change. So if I change code inside, I would be able to tell, in this case, there's this RPG program. And then we found that this one is where we'd be affected. Okay. And sometimes you're going to have the same effect, or a public and private are going to give very similar results. So now I'm going to do a public change. So that affects the parameters that are going back and forth. And here again, we come across this. And that's because, you know, the parameters are what could be changed. And it's the same object in this case. But I could add this to my model list. So I would do a Shift F4 or F16 and call it changes. And I don't want to do a replace. I want to do an add. It's really frustrating if you've gone through many, many screens and all of a sudden do a replace, because then you lose everything you worked on. So remember when you're doing this that the replace and add are very important. So now I can go back to my model list, my changes model list. And there's the two functions I've found so far. So I would continue to do this repetitively until I've found all the functions that that affect what I'm doing. And you may not do both. You probably will find situations where you're only going to do a public change or only going to do a private change, because it depends on what change you've made. In the case of changing a parameter, you know, the field, it's typically going to be affecting the parameters. So in that case, the public change is going to give you the most of the results. But it could be that that same field is being used in the action diagram. You know, maybe you're going to do a move or some other kind of work inside of the action diagram. So then you also, in that case, need to do the private change. So really, those are the main things that we have available to us in 2E. It's a matter of simulating a change. Once you simulate the change, you go and see what kind of effect it's having. And then you can determine what you have to do. I'm going to go in here again and just show so here's one item to look at when you're doing your work is, what is the reason? There can be all kinds of different reasons that show up. So some of the reasons that you might find are the object is used as a function parameter. So we've talked about that. Sometimes it could be that it's used on the panel or on the screen. So it'll actually give you some of those reasons here as you do your impact analysis. So let's go ahead and do a sample on a display record. Let's, I'm going to just simulate. I'm going to see what we have here that we could. Okay, we have policy number. So we should be able to get to that. Oops, I'm sorry. Let's see. Policy number, I'm going to do a usage. My screen is really big right now, so it's harder to see than normal. It's funny. All right. Now, we should see this. So I'm going to just go on the select. So I'm going to do it right here. So right here is what I wanted to bring up. So here is where you can see what's going on. That these are The reasons for these ones are because it's on the screen. Or if it's on a report, that it's on the panel of the report. So there's going to be a whole bunch of different reasons that you come across. I looked at, I haven't memorized them all. As I see them, I can understand what's going on, but there's about, I think, 3 pages worth of reasons that you could actually have come up here. The level is important because it tells you what level you are compared to this policy number. So that's really the core of impact analysis on 2E. And I'm sure you've all had some good experience in some large models trying to do that impact analysis. Like John said, I mean, the total number of objects could be, you know, a few thousand that you have to go through. And so you have to find ways to filter that down. Okay. Any questions on this? Okay, John, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to you.
Okay. Okay, so thank you, Mark. I think it was pretty good. One second here. So I think, yeah, TUI has that built-in facility. It's good to find out exactly at a really granular level what might be impacted, but not very good at giving you an overview of how things are constructed or architected or how the data lineage works. So I want to take a look at Evolve IT and see what that might bring you in addition to. So everyone got their link, I think, and user ID and password, except for maybe one person. But yeah, if you didn't get it, just chat and we'll somehow get you set up. I'm just going to go ahead and log in, just kind of just take you through it so you can kind of get an idea what's there. And Kyoshi was going to join at 1 and show some more advanced stuff too. So I'm just going to log in. So CM Evolve IT is a web-based application. We do run it hosted on Azure Cloud. So that's one option, is you can just basically rent it and use it on the cloud, and then you just point your model and source to the cloud instance. We'll parse that, and then you'll log in and see it. You know, optionally, some people don't like the idea of their information leaving their premises, so it can be installed on your own web server or your own cloud. It's basically a .NET application that's reading files that and reading like 2E models and source files and providing you know, insights into them. So let me just go ahead and sign in if I can remember my password real quick. You can follow along, I think, if you'd like. Okay, so I logged in and I'm looking at a particular repository. Got a few things here. So if I go down here and select repository, here's what we have available for the conference. So we have 2 versions of a 2E demo. I'm going to look at this one right here. So this one right here, just to show you that. What we have in 2E, especially in this demo, is pretty limited. It's a very small application. It's the application that Mark was showing you. It doesn't have some of the bells and whistles that we're adding to the 2E product as we speak. So I also included a Plex model as well that you can use to get an idea of how the 2E models impact analysis is going to work. And once we have all the features in there at the end of the quarter, in the 4th quarter. And so this is a real application. This is a Matchpoint, basically, which is a combination of clients and RPG backend. So this can be used also to kind of get an idea of where we're going in the future. And so I want to kind of show both. So let me select this one. It's inventory here. I think that's the wrong one because I see GUI. Okay, so here we can see at a dashboard level what's in my model. Very, very tiny model here. This is just like kind of a demonstration model we have that we use to show M3 migration and such. But you can see that it made up of a certain number of functions by type. These green screen, DDS report, et cetera, et cetera. In this demo, we're not parsing the action diagrams. That's why you're seeing zeros for here, but normally you would have the action diagram. But that's why I included the Plex version, so you can kind of see how the action diagram also gets parsed and the RPG gets parsed, and you can also search through that directly, but it's not in this demonstration version. I can also look at a languages tab here and see what might have made up the functions at an execution language. In this case, it's all RPG. But if you had RPG and COBOL in your model, you would see a breakup of these things. And in Plex, you have a lot more language types, so you'll see everything from C++ to Java to RPG, et cetera on that. But it's a good, I think, way to just kind of see at a glance your model. Sometimes people are astounded how big these 2E models are. We certainly have some that are upwards of 100,000 compiled objects, and super massive. And our product can handle that size, and can also do searches very quickly through it because of the back end, which is a graph database. So just to give you an idea, you can again follow along with me. You can kind of go to the summary level, see some things here about counts, etc. Okay, export everything is exportable to CSV or JSON. I have a little test menu set up here, but you can import your Y2 menus, or Y1 menus, I should say, into the tool, or if you have a menu system that's outside of 2E completely, maybe it's something you've built yourself. You see that quite a bit. You kind of import that, either import it into SUME IT or just even manually create your own menu. Okay, so menus are another part of it. Then the heart really is around the object browser part. So here's, I can look at different things that I'm interested in looking at. So I might be doing something that's impact on a database. And maybe that's the thing. So I could go right to database here, do searches on what strings and what it might be like maybe I'm looking for something to do with person. You can see, okay, I got 2 tables here, and then see the actual 2E object here and implementation object here. Or if I have a small enough situation like this one, I can just maybe just see everything. So I'm just going to blank everything out and see, okay, well, here's the tables that make up my application. Again, super small compared to, I'm sure many of your applications have many thousands, tens of thousands of tables. But say I'm interested in person table. I want to see how does this get updated exactly? What's the architecture around that? What's the data lineage around that? We can show forwards and backwards details, so things flowing in or out of the person table. We show the backwards detail in this case. So I'm interested in what's updating or accessing the person table. Click here. Say, okay, well, here's what's connected over here. So you can see implementation name, description, off the 2E model, language, what type it is. I think I'm hiding internal functions in this demo, but we can also see internal versus external, and see how it's actually accessing the person table here. I can also see what menu that might be associated with that, somewhere in the call graph around person, and also entry functions. So entry functions are functions that do not have a parent. Okay, so that would, I think that the reason you see so many here is this menu is just limited, doesn't it? We don't have every function on a menu. So these are kind of orphan functions here that Probably are on a menu, but don't appear to have any parent that's calling them. So I can see things like this here. I can see that we have 14 functions that read the first table, one function that creates it, one function updates it, inserts it, and updates it. So then I can say, okay, that's interesting. We can see that in a graphical viewpoint. So then I can also look at call graph here and see different levels. I can start out whatever level I want. I'm going to start out with full. In a real system, if you did a full call graph, you might see thousands and thousands and thousands of objects. So, but in this case, I know it's small enough where I'm not going to see that many. So I'm just going to pick full. Let's just see what we have here. Okay, so I can kind of quickly see what's attached to my person table. And I think a pretty nice format. You just expand it. Is that readable? Maybe when it's readable as far as the text. Mark, maybe.
There, that's a little bit better.
Can you read the text?
I can read the text, the larger text on each of them.
Okay. Yeah, it's a little hard with the Zoom meeting. Kind of makes it. Normally you can see this quite easily on your monitor. But I can see here what's updating this person table. Kind of move nodes around. See, well, this one right here appears to be is updating and inserting. That's probably important. Move things around like I want them. If I don't care to see particular functions, I can hide them from my analysis. Like say, well, I really don't care about this application. That's outside my analysis. Kind of go to where you might see a node and just zap it from the diagram. And this lets you get it quickly how the application is structured, especially around your area of interest. Okay. Do things like flip the orientation. That's better orientation. And once I get the layout like I want it, I can save the diagram and come back to it. Okay. And just save the layout. Okay. Bunch of stuff here. You might remove like several nodes at once if I want. Remove orphan nodes that don't have any connection to it. Export and import the diagram is really often used. So you may want to export this into, for example, draw.io, diagrams.net, I think they call it now, which is a Google product. Okay, so I can export it to that and then import it back in. Make changes, annotate it, add all kinds of notes to it and things like that. Or you can directly do it here and also do JSON CSV output of what nodes I want to analyze in my diagram. Okay, I can search for things. I can search for strings, very useful if you have large diagrams. Here's all the nodes of that person. They're kind of highlighted there. That's visible. Okay. Also, I might be interested in just a particular path. Maybe I'm just interested in, okay, well, how does this path here relate? Maybe from this menu function. And click on a start and an end, and then see the path from the menu to the, in this case, table, and even maybe highlight that, even just analyze that directly by doing this graph here. And so just kind of looking at that particular pathway from the menu all the way to the person physical table. Okay, and within each object, I can also look at some detail here. Okay, so I can go into here, I can say, okay, well, what also might be accessing this function. In this case, there's nothing. What else is this function calling, for example, that may be outside the person table? I can click that and then add those to my analysis. Kind of just free form. Go backwards and forwards and just inspect any area that may be interesting. So it's kind of a little different than you have a built-in TUI tools. So this is letting you build a visual structure of how things are operating, rather than just kind of focusing on what the impact might be of a particular change. Okay, so I can see the backwards and forwards connections, see things like notes. I can see where, in this case, we're accessing the database update statements. So I can see the actual RPG statements in this case, where it's actually reading the table in this case. I can also add my other notes here. And put your own annotations and have those saved so that the team can see. Okay. You see what table this is accessing. Agent, select agent, makes sense. Okay, so here's where I could look at, in theory, the action diagram. Yeah, sure. Kiyoshi, I'm sorry, Kiyoshi's joining. Let me add him in real quick. Are you able to add him in, Mark?
Yes, I was.
Okay, great. Okay, here's where you see the action diagram. I'm going to show that to you on the Plex side. We don't have it available on the 2E demo right now, but normally there you'd see the action diagram, the local modifications, okay, as well as the full template. So the template, provided template, plus all your local modifications. And here I can do very quick text searches using regular expressions and find things in the action diagram that may be a little easier than the way you saw Mark do it with the cut and paste and looking at the search within 2E. Sometimes this is just a lot quicker, and just the ability to see everything on one screen really quickly without having to go up and down on a green screen. You quite quickly get an idea of what the action diagram is locally and the full action diagram. I'll show you that in a minute in Plex so you get an idea what it looks like in real life. Estimation points, interesting. So I'll show you this in Plex as well, but here's where it's going to look at all of the calls and database accesses that make up this call graph. And you can see how complex this whole call graph might be. In this case, you're not seeing action diagram statements, as I mentioned, so we're not seeing a lot of complexity. We're just seeing the external function calls and database access. But normally you'd see everything that had to do with the action diagram. So get you a quick estimation on how complex this area is. And is it going to be, a bread box or an elephant to make a change to it? And that was the main thing I wanted to show here in this 2E model. So this can be something you can kind of look at your leisure on that part of it. I can also, in that case, we did a database access as a starting point, but we can also do a function as a starting point. Look for a particular function, pick a function of interest, like let's say this one here, edit address. See what that's calling. So we have 3 tables it accesses and calls a few functions. I can graph that from a functional perspective. It's going to look pretty much the same, but just with this particular area of an analysis rather than the other one. So here we're seeing how address calls other functions, select address, and then how it interacts and reads the person address table. I can select the state, et cetera, et cetera. So you really, again, quickly see how functions are connected, analyze and view them. I just want to mention business term here, that this is a data dictionary thing that has been highly requested, where and I know you have domain fields in 2E where you can say, okay, this is a number field, or maybe you've created your own domains. Certainly see that quite a bit. But if you want to look at it from a business perspective, maybe like SSN, Social Security number, maybe that's called all kinds of different names across your TUI model, and maybe there's all kinds of different formats. Maybe it's numeric some places, maybe it's alphanumeric other places. But I can create terms here that make sense to me as a business, and then assign those to actual columns in the table, in the actual physical schema. In this case, I have one instance of that, but in a typical application, you may have hundreds of cases where you have SSN. I can quickly see every column that's attached to it. And if I have a naming scheme around SSN, maybe the column has SSN or the description has SSN in it, I can also create rules to automatically assign these by name. And that usually gets a vast majority of your business terms kind of built up automatically. But then always there's a few that have to be maybe manually done, because instead of SSN, I called it tax ID in one case, right? So that's another area there. I'm going to switch now. All right, any questions so far before I move on? Look at, see how the SSN is attached. Okay, so this is a TUI model, shows a TUI demonstration that's kind of limited. I also wanted you to get an idea what's coming over the next couple months. So I'm going to switch over to a Plex repository. Plex is very similar to TUI. It's got an action diagram, just like TUI. So we can see some things that are maybe a little more complicated and be more indicative of a TUI model as our analysis is going to get to. Okay, so I'm here. Let's take a look at the summary dashboard. Okay, so here's a much larger application, okay, than we were looking at before. This has a function count of 3,300 about. Shows how it's broken apart. We have backend functions, we have GUI functions with screens, unknown or API functions. So you can see the type of function, the action diagram line count, because we are parsing the action diagram in this case. So I've got quite a few here. I've got, that's going to be almost 1 million. Okay, but that's includes inherited or templated action diagram. And we have here, we can see that we have about 50,000, I guess, manually entered action diagram statements. And so that's, not by any means not as large as some of the models, but also not trivial. And also I can see how that's broken up by language. In this case, we're seeing a combination of Java and WinC and a little bit of RPG. Okay, and so how it's constructed and what part of those action diagrams are generating WinC versus Java versus RPG. So quickly kind of get some counts here. Okay, and then let's take a look at the same thing we looked at under the TUI model. I'll look at some of these functions here. Okay, so maybe I want to look at promotion object. This is a change management system. Look at the backward detail there. How does that, let me just look at this one here. How does this get populated? Okay, see a lot of functions that are populating it. Let's take a look at the call graph. Maybe I'll just do neighbor in this case, or shallow. So a little more complicated we saw on the small TUI model. I can see again how this table gets populated and where it gets read very quickly. Let's take a look at some of these functions here and see what we have. In this case, I would expect to see some action diagram. No, not that one. Let's take a look at this one here. No, nothing there either. I picked the wrong one here. Let me see. Wow. Let me go to a different function. I know it has some action diagram. actually, Kyoshi's on the line here. Maybe
Yeah, I'm here.
turn over you to show some of the details of those use cases you showed before.
Okay.
Kyoshi, can I do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm here. So yeah, can you stop share? I can still.
Yeah, stop sharing. So I showed them the TUI model we had, the simple one, and then made the analogy that Plex and TUI will be at some point be the same, but I want to show them what's in Plex now so they have an idea of what's coming on the TUI side very quickly.
Oh, sure. 1 second.
You see your PowerPoint or saw it for a second?
Yep. Hold on. Screen 1. Do you see my PowerPoint or you just see the sky?
I see the impact analysis slide, and now I see the sky
Okay.
or the ocean.
How about now? Slide?
Yep.
Okay. Little confused. It showed the second screen sharing, but okay. So here Kyoshi Terasawa, so working for Evolve IT, and also work for a long time for CA for both Plex and TUI. So I just try to convert my Plex side of demo more to see you could imagine what's gonna coming for the TUI world for the same thing as well. Okay, so let's start. Okay, so we kind of focusing things that tool cannot do, but we can provide answer. So relatively quickly, I mean, basically very quickly, to help basically your daily life and save time. Or sometimes it's more like a bigger picture of understand your system, which maybe written very long time ago. Well, it's a little hard to get knowledge in your organization, etc. Okay, so there are several scenario I have. So just first, a very simple scenario. So if I change one function, so I have a sample function available. Okay, so I have a function, and it's probably John already shows, so you can filter with the different type and languages.
Yeah, I've showed some basic there.
Yeah,
okay. Into the basics.
Okay, so just start one function, and so there's a function. Well, this one shows backward and forward, which maybe John already shows. So this is a pass. This is an endpoint, and then calling by this amount of stuff. So we have a concept of menu, which is especially TUI, while the menu may be outside of your TUI model. You maybe use work menu, or you maybe use other menu utility on the 400. And then typically you cannot track from the menu as an entry point to reach function. But we have a capability to import or define the menu. So you could recreate, so kind of simulating the menu as entry point and then define the call graph from menu. So that's way more you could more real information, just not just from the model. Well, this one has a read invoke from two menu item. That's what it means, but it's somehow. So it somehow is important. So because it's really deep call graph here. So one thing you could instantly provide, so if you click this tiny like a diagram like icon, so this one show up. So this far left is a menu entry I clicked, and this is a destination I just showing. So from here to this function, these paths exist actually. Well, probably 2E maybe not this deep, but you could make it deep as you wish, right? So, but the point is,
I think it
so
would be
if you
that deep
point,
into me too. Yeah, I think you would find.
yeah, yeah, too. I think so. Yeah, yeah. So this way, really, without knowing any depth, because this one only called by this guy, but indeed, to reach here, you calling travel from the menu function, so then it leads to menu. So this instant view maybe help something to research. And also now you can select a certain path you're interested. I just do quickly, but it maybe do some spend in time. So if I just highlight these paths, which maybe I need to interest, and then if I click that graph button, so it's just extract that path for you, and then just to create a short subset of graph paths in, diagram here. And then there's an option you can save. So you can save this diagram to, okay, if I give some name and save it, so it's saved, and your saved model diagram is listed here. And so this one, well, someone created, and I created maybe, but can bring back the same view anytime later. So that way, I can remember that this core graph, I need to research something where I stopped tonight at this point, but you continue. Also, there's a capability of sharing this diagram with other your team members. So sorry, if I check this public OM, then like for instance, John or you guys, if you log in, can see this my diagram too. So you can share the information. So that's one thing. And of course, this is backward, and then we can have a forward path as well. So you see the bunch of core graph. Well, this is big. And then if you want to just know this table I want to research, you can just get a different way to get the core graph from the starting point to end point. Well, this one has some round trip to somewhere, but that's the other way to show. So, but point is, so if this is the middle of core graph, and you can see the both direction, and you have a quick hint of what maybe impact, etc. So that's our first part. Okay, and the business arm, I think you touched. So go little quickly for the afterward. So so I created a business term, different things, so request number, and it's already assigned. It's not just single field, but it has a bunch of column, so a bunch of column defined. The key point here is it's a database column. It's not the field in the 2E. So because you could have a qualification, etc., your field is given different name and belong to the different table, etc. But by tracking the column, so at least you guaranteed to associate with the table. So like this one, so I can do the same way to do the function. So this is not core graph, but it's a relation. So to make it visually simply, so this is like a business term I use and associated with these columns, and all the green is table. So with this view, you can see these columns you group to the business term of request number is associated with this table. And you can start a new view of diagram by selecting this tiny button, and it's opened a new tab for that starting point as table. And then yeah, you can change to the direction to backward and then maybe shallow. So you could see the table function call graph from this table. Of course, you can manually add it to the column to, well, this one has quite a lot of columns. So, but you could do that, manually extend your diagram and then to show the things. For Plex, it's a little bonus. Maybe do something similar for 2E, but so we also extracting the how the actually generated function is accessing database. So we could do like a chain or readme probably, but we can this information is not available in the model because this is come from the generated source code. But for this SQL itself, tell you this function is generating this kind of SQL statement, and this is used for the condition and then order by that. So we could do, I think we're doing similar for the chain or readme, etc. Which little lack of information, but yeah, we could add more key definition, etc. to more reasonably to understand without going to source code. But this is kind of real information, but 2E generate or Plex generate. So that may help something. Okay. Okay. So you also use for the performance analysis some small story, little bit Plex-like, but the idea could be applied to the 2E as well. So just additional functionality we have is we can add custom property to the existing database data. So let's say you get row count for each table in your system. So you probably can do by using the IDMI command, or you maybe use the SQL to get every single table with count asterisk. You get the number of rows each table has. So that's, of course, that's purely deployment information. So it's not model never knows, and the model doesn't able to consider that that's any factor. But we kind of allow to create a custom property code. I mean, this one say row count as integer. And then we could import using CSV, and then we can use it. So let's just do the short demo for that. So there's a property management, and I'll just say DB schema and row count. And I just say row space count and type integer. So this one just to create a placeholder, and I need to feed the data. So I think I have a data for the conference 2020 impact. Okay, maybe I show quickly. So this is the data. So just a single pair. So just table name and the row count. That's about. Okay, and so if I do select and do the import, so somehow 130 item is updated. So now if I go to daily schema, so the custom property you added is automatically appear as a filter. So because you added, so maybe some reason to do some filtering. So let's say I want to search table contains 1 million record or more. So you can do the range search. So there's a 3 function hit, I mean 3 table hit. So actually these 3 table actually has 1 million record, which you probably knows, but you know, it's just a nice essence to do some performance research, because sometimes you know, reading unnecessary record is one of the main cause of performance. Like if you do retrieve index, retrieve object, you mean to restrict, but one function maybe forget to have restrictor, then doing position, and then if you forget to the quit condition cover enough, then it just goes through all the 1 million records sometime. Well, but you never know. It's done by a long time ago, and the record count was low, like 1,000, which probably no issue, but it's just a dummy reading, maybe one of the program factor, performance factor, especially, yeah. And also it's just showing up after maybe years afterward. So because this is table, so if you do the backward, so you see the list of function calling, and you have neighbors, and this one actually tells this amount of function is actually reading, and you maybe consider to investigate this function one by one, anything suspicious. Also, for that type of research, you may have an entry menu already, you maybe know. So you can start from menu and approaching this table. So finding out, paths on the between the main menu to the table, and then you maybe find a subset of this information, and then you just check the action diagram maybe, and other stuff. So that's kind of one way we kind of appreciated to find a performance issue. Okay. And the last one is action diagram search. So I forget the TUI has capability of text search of action diagram, but what we're doing is, so we get the action diagram as text file, and then those text file we go through the indexing using search engine. So you could search something very quickly, fastly, effectively. Then also it's matched to the it's matched to the call graph at the starting point, etc., end point. So let's say can search something like this. So we have search, we can search better. So we have local and full. So local and full difference is, local, you are locally changing that function, and the full is just everything. So you create like a retrieve index, retrieve object, or create object. In many cases, you don't put anything, but just use as is. That time locally has nothing. But if you use retrieve object with some process data, coding there, that's kind of one has local changes overriding from the original template, which most likely TUI has something, but lots of time, like a simple create, change, delete, maybe not have any local. Anyway, so this is kind of edit point name in the Plex side, which it's like a retrieve object, like. So I just search the local change of if the function has local change and with edit point name this exists. So if I just ask, so this is searching like a 3,000 more files. So it's returned very quickly. And then you can see the like a action diagram text, and then imagine this is like a retrieve object process row edit point. And well, this goes up terminate is kind of similar. You may do quit in the TUI, but okay, so it has condition. Well, then they do the quit. Okay, so is this condition is really meaning doing what you mean, or maybe there's some hole to escape something. So then you maybe want to start look up that things. So that's just a very powerful to search, not just the object search, it's a text search. So you can search many different things using here. So one of the things I have is, okay, So like this one. So this is just a field value in the two plex. So this is a field name and the dot, and this is value. So just to look for if this value is used in the action diagram. Again, it's come back quickly. And if you search it, and well, okay, so this field is used in the one of the if statement. Okay, so that's, you know, that kind of quick search. So it's just a pointing to the URL where it is used, but it's sometimes it's probably not possible to search, like including like you can search like a comment as well. So just a phrase of in the action diagram can be hit very quickly, and you can just start to investigate. This arrow button here, that's the same thing you see the other places, so you can investigate the Cobra for the function, but also you just quickly see how the condition is used in the different functions as well. That's probably really powerful thing to do. Okay, I think that's about very quick, but hopefully get some idea. So we're working hard to get the action diagram formatted nicely for human because the TUI store in the database. So that's the things needed to little large effort than Plex, but so we kind of working on that, and then hopefully we can get the text version of action diagram, and we could do search, etc., and other stuff too. Okay, back to John.
Yes, yeah, thank you, Kyoshi.
I'm gonna stop sort of. Yep.
I guess we've done a lot of talking there. So yeah, I want to give you guys some time to, I guess, ask questions. Also look at your browser application and kind of just play around. And we're kind of here to help you look at it. And definitely interested in getting your impressions on how this will work as an impact analysis tool for you.
John, actually, I got a few questions.
Yes, sir.
Well, you know, this dashboard repository, is that the real time to the, let's say, you know, to a TUI model? Is that the real time, or is it just?
Yeah, it is not a real time. It is a snapshot. So you provide the model and the source, and we scan that. And it takes, you know, anywhere from a few minutes to a few hours to build the repository. So typically people would do that overnight.
I see. And also, you know, for a large model, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you break it down by like a application area?
Yes, we can. I don't know if we can demo that, Kyoshi. I actually have a slide here. I can kind of show that.
maybe no, but I think we have. So the split between the two.
Yes.
There's a okay. I'm probably talking. So where's my share? Yeah, subsystem. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So we have a concept of grouping functions. So by subsystem concept, so kind of if you have clear division within the model, we could group things. And if we want to separate repository for like we have a capability to switch the inventory. I mean, we call it inventory, but we can switch the different different data storage repository between two, so we can prepare the two if we want, what 3 from the one model, that's one. But also internally, we can flag the subsystem kind of information to flag on.
Oh, so you have
But
to.
yeah,
Oh,
Mhm.
sorry. Oh, I
Yeah,
was
go,
gonna
go.
ask. So basically, you have to manually group them, right?
No, well,
No,
you
no,
could.
if you provide, yeah. Mhm.
So the application area can be used, or some people have a scheme where they use the function name to,
Oh,
so as long as we
Yeah,
have some
like
scheme that can be automatically applied.
okay, I
Yeah.
see. All right.
We need a rule, right? Yeah, we need a rule, but yeah, like an entities rule can be, or like a function, certain starting, name of function. Maybe that could be the rule. But once we get the rule, then we can do the automatic. Of course, it's not like doing 100 functions. It's like thousands of functions. So
Right.
automatic. Yeah.
I see. The other
Mhm.
question that I have is let's say when you do impact analysis, and
Mhm.
I'm talking about specifically for 2E. So
Mhm.
when you when you do impact analysis, does it extend your analysis into a non-sign-on generated program? Like let's say if I have
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
native, it
Yeah.
does. Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
I mean, we have a limited parser, CL, and RPZ. So at least we extracting like a CL call another program, CL access another database, or RPZ handwritten calling other RPZ program with best parser, but we not probably cover every single call statement usage, like a special RPG4 free format, etc.
Mhm.
But we have a capability to join the non-2E stuff to be part of this repository. So that's also applied like a menu concept too. So like a menu is normally outside of model.
Model,
So
right.
then we have a capability to import menu definition, and then associate with the entry function in the tree model. So
I see.
that's also yeah.
All
And
right.
we have a very extensive COBOL parser. I don't know what you're generating now, but if you're generating COBOL, it's very extensive.
Right. We have both actually.
Okay.
RPG, OPM IOE, and COBOL IOE and OPM as well. I do have another question though. Let's say once I'm done with my impact analysis, now I have a final list. I understand you can export it to JSON or CVS. Does it have a capability to upload back to the model so that we can do a generation?
That's a great question. No, we do not have an automated capability at this moment, but however, that would be a very trivial thing to add. It'd be very trivial to format it in such a way that it could be imported
Send it
into a
back.
tree model. Yeah.
Right. I see. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I think consuming. Well, dumping JSON CSV is just a kind of entry point, right? So it depends on how you use. So how you use, who gonna convert, who gonna write program to use those data. So that's kind of applied to that. So you have a scenario to dump out and then generate request to the TUI command. Then I think someone need to consume that data to the way you want and then format to fire the command. Well, that's just the right one program, which could be part of us, but part of you. But it's just an important thing is, we can provide entry data and we could work together to make it happen. So that's my take. Because different people have different way to use those data. But we currently kind of focusing provide data, but of course, we could enhance how to use data part as well.
All right. And you mentioned the repository can be exported overnight, right? Depending on the size of the model. Any idea how long it's gonna take? And also, when that that is when that job is running, does it actually lock up the model?
Okay. So we just
Go ahead, Keshe.
starting to leading the 2E model. So well, lock probably not needed. It just maybe little some funny conflict may happen, but we just leading database as 2E. I mean 2E model as database. So it depends on timing. There may be conflict, but I think it's read access, so it should be okay as functionality-wise. But you know, if the very first time we extract this information, they later come to the accessing same object but the different information, there may be differences. But that's maybe about
But
yeah.
you know, probably
Like-
not.
Yeah.
We don't lock the model in any way.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think. I mean, obviously, if someone's updating a record, and that was before the snapshot was taken by DB2 to read it. You know, like the case, there could be some kind of strange inconsistency. But I think I couldn't think it would be anything major. It certainly wouldn't lock or prevent anyone from using 2E.
Okay, so locking is not an issue. For like abstract the information out of the model, I would think it's but based on what I'm seeing, you know, this tool it's pretty, you know, pretty powerful. So it probably gathers a lot of information from the model database file. And
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
so I guess depending on the size of the model, how long do you think, how long does it take to, you know, complete the extract? The reason I'm asking that is because right now we're using X analysis. And for one of the repository that we actually take more than 12 hours to build, and that causing issues. So that's why I'm asking how long, you know, usually this product takes to extract the information.
Okay,
That's
I
a
think,
great question.
Yeah, everybody, ask same question. Yeah, for Plex, I mean, so right now we cannot say the concrete for 2E because we still not doing the big one. But for Plex, we doing similar thing, parsing lots of source code generated, like sometime like 10,000 or more functions, and also extracting, accessing model to get kind of information from model combined, and then the massaging, etc. But I don't say, I cannot imagine it's like it takes half day, because I mean, I loaded quite a large model, but it doesn't take that long. That's
So
my
for
feeling.
for your model, like 10,000 functions,
Yeah,
take
or
about
more,
half a
yeah.
day or more. Okay, I see.
No, less than. I
Less
cannot
than.
imagine it takes half day. Yeah, I cannot
see.
imagine. I
Yeah.
don't remember I wait a half day, to finish. Yeah, but yeah.
Right.
Well,
That's
first
including
it's
parsing.
really site sensitive, but the 2E is already database, so it's pretty much faster because Plex is like a big binary repository, so it's little takes time to communicate through the thing. So
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, this is very helpful. Thank you.
Do you have a rough number, how many compiled functions that represents?
Oh, sorry. Are you asking me or?
Yeah, just a range of, or, you know, if you looked at compiled, I'm just so I get an idea, because
Right. We have a large database. We have like a 67,000 files.
okay.
And function wise, oh, I'm sorry, no. Function, it's 67,000.
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a little less than some. It's big certainly. So, but yeah, I think I think certainly it would be hours, but not a huge number of hours.
Right. Okay. Well, that's good to know. Thank you. And also the product you're saying 2E parts, it's not available yet, right?
Well, it's available. It's available as a preview, a beta preview.
I see.
But yeah, we are working on the action diagram piece of it. And then when we have that, I consider, be fully ready for use. Right now, it's available for use now, but it's without the action diagram, it's maybe of limited value.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Mhm.
Other questions or problems accessing? Oh, cool. I guess we'll hang out here till 2 o'clock Central, and if you want to play around or questions come up, or you're trying to do something and involve it, you just can't do it. We'll just kind of hang out here to be available for you. But yeah, just hoping you kind of get some hands on and try a couple things out. Try some call graphs out and database access, and just I know it's not going to be like you're gonna know everything about the product, but I think you can get a sense for it in maybe 15 minutes even.
How long will we have access for the demo?
Yeah, great question. Definitely through the end of Monday. I think we'll be able to do a few days more than that, but definitely through the end of Monday.
Okay.
If you need more, I guess you can just email me.
All right, perfect. Yeah, I'll probably take a look at it over the weekend.
Yeah, definitely over the weekend, and we already committed to through Monday for some folks. So
Fantastic.
Everybody.
Thanks, John.
Okay, sure.
Okay, thank you. I need to leave to my other session. So
Yeah,
hope
thanks,
you
Josh.
liked it. Yep. See
Yeah.
you later.
All right, thank you, Mark, too. And yeah, I guess Mark and I will be here just hanging out and let you kind of do some hands-on, and any questions come up of any kind, we'll just be here. And appreciate you guys taking the time to take a look at this technology.
Thanks, guys. Very cool
Thank you.
stuff.
Yeah, very cool. Thanks.
Hey, John.
Yes.
This is more of a scheduling thing. There's no wrap up then? So after the 4 o'clock or the 2 to 4 session, it's just done, eh? There's no.
Well,
back to the
actually,
group thing?
I think it was pretty unclear, but my understanding is there is a wrap up at 4
Okay.
o'clock back at the main session. So I'm going to clarify that right now, and I'll see if we can send out like a broadcast note to everybody. But that was the thinking, was we'd have just a brief get together on the main session at 4 o'clock.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you.
Well, I did confirm there's going to be a wrap up at 4 o'clock. That's so. Looks like we should get back in the general session at 4 for a quick wrap up.
Great. Thanks, John.
Appreciate that.
Okay, guys, I think I'm going to end the session, and yeah, I saw a couple folks had some trouble. I'll send a separate email on that directly. All right, we're gonna have a great day and talk at 4 maybe. We're gonna have a general session, wrap up then. All right, take care.
All right.